Hey guys, welcome back to Statchat Sports. We're talking Premier League today. I've got Tazza on the line. How you going, mate?
Very good, mate. Very good. Glad to be chatting again.
Good stuff, mate. Good stuff. Look, I think we're going to have a pretty jam-packed episode today, and I think we're going to need to start on the Merseyside Derby. Look, it only occurred to me in watching the game, as the result stands, a 2-0 to Liverpool. It leaves Everton the wrong side of the dotted line. They're currently sitting in the relegation zone, but it only occurred to me that watching that game, that could be the last Merseyside derby for a while if Everton do end up going down. That was a bit of an odd thought.
Yeah, it occurred to me probably after the game, actually, and I was thinking, yeah, is that it? It's a staple in Premier League, and it has been for since the Premier League's inception. So it's kind of, I mean, it's not a foregone conclusion, but it's kind of sad to think that it could be done. But look, there's plenty of water to flow under the bridge yet, so we'll see what happens on that front.
Yeah, for sure. I hope they don't go down for that reason. I don't want the Merseyside derby to become a thing of the past. So yeah, let's hope for their sake that they stay up. But enough of that. Refer to the game. It seemed like a Merseyside derby of yesteryears. There's not been a lot of controversy or sort of heated moments in the derbies, but this game definitely had that this week.
Yeah, it was intense. It was on from the go, and there was no shortage of drama. It was just full on. It was good to see. I'm not going to lie. I mean, both sides really had red hot. Well, I wouldn't say red hot crack, but Everton had a red hot crack at pissing Liverpool off. I'd say that's probably all they really achieved there. But yeah, no, it's good to see the biff back. I think in the derby, it has been missing. If this is the last one, it was quite a good spectacle to end it on.
Yeah, at least it would be one to remember. I mean, Everton, they came in with a clear game plan. Definitely was to slow down the pace of the game and to frustrate Liverpool. And in that first half, I think they definitely did that. We're talking the antics of the player, Richarlison. I don't know how many times he was down on the ground, multiple times. Just, you know what I mean. And then you get guys wanting to knock the ball out of play so he can have treatment, and everyone's like, Liverpool keeping the ball. And then I'm talking about that big scuffle that sort of came towards the end of the first half there. Richarlison was involved in that. And I mean, I had Pickford at the end of the first half as well, sort of laying down on the ground, a bit of a wink to the camera. It's all normal stuff in the derby, I suppose, but it's kind of what they came to do. In the first half, it was successful, but in the second half, Liverpool took control. And as soon as they got that first goal, it was away with all of that shit because they realised, okay, we've got to play proper football now. And that kind of opened them up for more gaps. But it's that kind of stuff. As a fan, I was getting frustrated watching it. I don't know about yourself, but I was definitely on edge, I must admit.
Yeah, I mean, given what's at stake, all the time waste in a normal game, if there wasn't so much on the line, it probably wouldn't have been so frustrating as a supporter. But given what's on the line, it was just so tense, and you just wanted Liverpool to find that first goal. And I mean, it did take a while, but Everton did their job to a point that they came to do. I mean, it was always going to be a monumental task to keep the Reds out for the whole game in the form that they're in. But they frustrated many Liverpool players, especially Mane, who was quite lucky, in my opinion, to avoid being sent off. Two separate incidents in the same scuffle that could have been dealt with a little bit more harshly. But yeah, I mean, in the end, it's a fair result considering Everton did have their chances, but really, as we've seen all season, just unable to provide a clinical finish and really scuffed at any good chances they had.
Yeah, I agree. You mentioned Mane there, and I think it's important that we touch on a couple of key points, key moments in the game, because it wasn't just that Mane one. There's a few to go through. The first one would have been Naby Keita's challenge on Gordon in the box. It was a penalty shout. It was ignored by the referee, and a subsequent yellow card followed for Gordon for diving or simulation, as it's called. Right decision.
Yeah, that was blatant. I mean, yeah, he'd committed to the dive, and then he had the balls to throw out the little. It was a proper flop. He really gave it a bit of mayo. That one that was pretty poor, and yeah, you really don't want to be developing a reputation for those kind of things, because I know the penalty chance, that one was a bit closer, but they're the things in the future that are going to go the wrong way for him, because a 50-50 chance, his reputation will precede him, and he's going to be on the wrong end of decisions that he maybe should be rewarded, or not rewarded, but the opponent should be punished for.
Unfortunately, it seems like he is making a little bit of a reputation for himself, Gordon. He's a young guy, and that's definitely not the kind of way you want to be going. He'll probably mature up and stop doing it, but yeah, it's not a good look for himself. But just, Everton as well, that we're talking about Gordon here in this incident, but Everton as a whole, there's been 12 yellow cards throughout the season for simulation, and Everton as a team have half of those.
Yeah.
So we're not just talking about Gordon, we're talking about everyone in that side there. Like, that's not a pretty record to hold.
It shows, is it something that's being ingrained? No, obviously, managers don't go out and teach those things, but it's something that might just be becoming ingrained within their system and within their squad. And you don't want a reputation for that. And it's the kind of thing, if it's the team as a whole, those decisions are going to go against every single one of those players. The referees do their homework. They'd know about those kind of things.
Absolutely.
And so it's just going to bite them on the ass when it really matters. And the fact that they're coming right into they're in the relegation zone now. What if a stonewall penalty isn't awarded because of that reputation? It really has the ability to cripple them at this point.
But it's interesting you say that, because the second talking point for me is in the second half, again on Gordon, and this one was Joel Matip. I kind of feel like the first half antics involving Gordon and involving other players on Everton's team was, for me, the reason why this one probably wasn't given as a penalty. I'm sure you know the one I'm talking about, but for the listeners, that there was a coming together between Matip and Gordon in the penalty box. It kind of looked like a push in the back. It could have, Matip maybe kind of got in the way in front of him, got a bit of a shoulder to shoulder. But for me, it's one that it could be given either way. For me, I've seen penalties given for less, and you see those types of ones be given here and there. VAR didn't overrule the decision. However, I feel like if the penalty was given, I don't think VAR would have overruled it then either. So it really just came down to the way that the referee was seeing it on the pitch. And based off of what happened in the first half, I think that played on the referee's mind, and that is kind of why he wasn't given a penalty. He wasn't awarded a penalty here as well.
Yeah, Merseyside derbies are renowned more so for physicality than in other games, other normal games with less importance within the season. And I think that's really come into the referees' thinking here. I mean, it's really antsy. It's really intense. It's physical. Like you said, they've been given for worse, but given the physical nature of the game, I think that's why he erred on the side of caution and didn't give him the penalty. And I agree. If it did go to VAR, and if it was said it was a penalty, it'd gone to VAR, I think it would have stood. There wasn't enough to overturn his decision either way. It was a 50-50, and you go with the referee's call. So
Lampard's comments
Yeah.
were a Liverpool player gets a penalty in that position, and not only just that, but like that. Yeah, that decision is given at Liverpool, and I think his words were, "You don't get those decisions at Liverpool."
I don't know. Yeah, I think he's just bitter. I think he's bitter and twisted. And he's just look. You go with. I know it's Everton v Liverpool. It's not as close as it has probably been in years gone by, but I mean, didn't exactly take it to Liverpool. I mean, it was a pretty negative game plan.
Mane's red card. You mentioned it earlier. I've heard your thoughts. You think he could have got away with one. In that kerfuffle that was mentioned, a little bit of a push in the face of Alan. That for me was what I was what looked like they were looking at. I know you think he might have got away with one, but for me, I don't think that's a red for me personally. I don't think there's quite enough there. I mean, look, both players are in each other's face. Obviously, Mane does the wrong thing and pushes Alan, but I don't think there's a lot there. I think, look, if Alan flopped on the floor and made a deal out of it, maybe there's a bit of a case there, but that didn't happen. And it's not a hit, it's not a slap, it's just a push, it's a get out of my face sort of thing. So for me, there's just wasn't quite enough. But you looking the other way.
Did you catch the other incident as well?
No, you mentioned the second incident, but I don't think I did see that.
There's a finger to it. It sort of looked like eye gouging a little bit.
Okay.
It wasn't an eye gouge, but it was a finger towards the eye, and it had the ability to be a lot worse, I think. And it was at Mason Holgate. He was given the yellow for the Alan incident. I can't remember which one preceded which, but I'm very lucky having gotten the yellow to have only gotten the yellow for both incidents. I think I agree that the Alan incident was a yellow, and yellow at that, but coupled together is where I kind of see it could have been a little bit more.
Okay, well, maybe because I missed that part. That's where the line stopped for me. But look, Mane's not shy of getting involved in these sorts of situations. Like, I mean, not just fighting, but like we've seen a few stray elbows fly around from himself, and shouts of red cards have been red cards have been thrown around. I think there's been a couple against Arsenal, definitely one against Chelsea. I remember early on in the season, it was about 2 minutes into the game, or not even, might have been earlier than that. But yeah, he tends to have a bit of a go.
He's not afraid to push the boundaries, and I think that's what most Liverpool supporters love about him. Is he isn't afraid to get stuck in, and he isn't afraid to really have a go. I think, and that's what you want you want effort and you want passion from a lot of your players, and that's what Mane gives. Whether he oversteps the line, probably, but I mean, the referee hasn't in this case seen it that way, and play on.
The last incident I want to look at is Richarlison's little kick out on Jordan Henderson. Not too malicious. I've seen a couple of these before. I think Harry Maguire might have been Mason Mount in a Chelsea game. I think Son was involved in an incident in which he actually saw red for that. Maguire's incident wasn't. It didn't look too much. It definitely looked like he sort of straightened the leg out there, but there was already sort of contact. But it didn't look too crazy. I think he got yellow, which I think is probably the right decision.
This is borderline for me. It looked as if he made contact, felt the leg, and then pushed out. And that for me it's not like he extended his leg. To me, it feels like he's hasn't felt for the contact, hasn't tried to get the contact, but has got it and then lashed out. So, yeah, I don't know how I feel about it. It's borderline. Given the others were yellows, I think yellows is fair, given there were no reds dished out anywhere else. I'd feel for Everton supporters if that was the case. It would feel a little bit unfair. Yeah, if you give red to the others, you got to give that a red. Given the others were given yellow, you give this a yellow. All square. I think altogether the refereeing was right and just, and was allowed a little extra leeway given it was a derby.
So you think overall, in conclusion, both sides were pretty lucky to end the game with 11 men?
Yes. Yeah, I think if it wasn't a derby, I think it ends differently.
Yeah.
I know it shouldn't be that way, but you always anticipate a little bit more physicality in these matchups. So, yeah, they were lucky, but yeah, I've said it many times. It was a derby, so different case.
You do have to be a little bit more leeway in a derby because that you expect that sort of stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
Moving on, we're still talking the Merseyside derby. We'll probably be here for a little bit more. It was the big game this weekend. But I want to try and have a look and pinpoint because something came up on the socials that I saw, and it was the spending between the two clubs since the summer of 2016, which would have been Jurgen Klopp's first full season in charge. He came through in October 15. So since the summer of 2016, which was Jurgen's first full season at the club, comparison between Liverpool and Everton's spending. And it makes for interesting reading considering where the two clubs currently sit and sort of how the clubs have gone since that point in the season. A total money spent of £639 million for Everton and a total spend of £569 million for Liverpool. Yet they are at completely different ends of the spectrum. What the hell has gone wrong for Everton to spend that amount of money and to be in the position that they're in?
It just shouts, just scouting, recruiting. It's something's gone wrong there. How many signings there have they really nailed?
Well, let's go through it. Bear with me because the list is long. But these are the players that Everton have signed since 2016 for a fee of 20 plus million, right? So they had Yannick Bolasie for 29 million. This is all pounds. 29 million. Yep. Morgan Schneiderlin for 23. They both came in the summer of 2016.
They're both
I'd say both misses. Yep.
Yeah.
Gylfi Sigurdsson for 50 million. Michael Keane for 30 million. And Pickford for 30 million. And Davy Klaassen for 27 million. Theo Walcott for 22.5. And Cenk Tosun for 22.5 in 2017. That's a big window there. And for me, they're all misses. Davy Klaassen left the previous window, left the club. Michael Keane has been a bit of a miss. He was good at Burnley, but he's been pretty average at Everton. Gylfi Sigurdsson, we won't go there. We all know where he is currently. Jordan Pickford, I mean, he's England's number one. I suppose you could probably call that a hit, but for me,
that's my hit.
Yeah.
I think that's one hit. Yeah, you can get that.
Theo Walcott and Cenk Tosun can both go in the same boat. They were both shit. Didn't do a damn thing for the club.
Agreed. Terrible.
Next window, you're looking at Richarlison for 40 million, Yerry Mina for 30, and Luca Dean for 20. Richarlison, that's a hit. Luca Dean at his time was a hit. This is probably their most successful window here, to be honest. Yerry Mina is kind of on the fence, but he's not been too bad for them.
Yeah.
But none of those players have really carried Everton to the next heights. This is where it gets a little bit funky. Alex Iwobi for 30 million. I wouldn't pay 3.
No. He's been good in parts, but he's shown up every now and then, but just nowhere near consistent enough.
Definitely not. Absolutely not. Moise Keane for 27.5. Andre Gomes for 25, and Jean-Philippe Gbamin, I'm not sure how to exactly pronounce that, for 25 million in 2019. Moise Keane no longer at the club. Gbamin, I believe, is still there, but I think he's probably played like a total of 5 games for the club because of injuries.
Yeah.
Andre Gomes is in and out because of consistency and form. And obviously, we've spoken about Iwobi. Another window full of misses for me.
Yeah.
And then we've got Ben Godfrey for 27.5, Alan for 24, Abdullah Decore for 22 in 2020. Ben Godfrey's not a bad young player for him. He'll grow into something, I believe.
He'll develop.
Yeah. Alan's been good for them as well, sort of average, and Decore's not a bad signing. So another decent window there for him.
I'd say Decore's a hit.
Yeah.
Jury may still be out on Decore, but I'll give him a hit.
Yeah.
Alan, yeah, I don't know. He was woeful on the weekend, but I mean, we're not going to give that.
He had 2 completed passes, and they were both from kickoff.
Yeah, it was kickoffs. That's terrible.
That's a shocker.
That's career under stats there. Like that's the kind of stats where you may not even see the pitch again. You're a castaway from then.
Yeah, it doesn't fare well for you. And then lastly, Mikalenko was signed for 24 million in the summer this season. So overall, that's where their major spend comes from. That's all the list. That's all their players from 20 million plus since 2016, as mentioned. And there was probably a handful that we would call a hit.
I think I counted 4. I've done a little list here, and I've got 4. And I'm being generous with 1 or 2 of them. Yeah.
So that just screams recruitment. And for a lot of people and pundits out there, recruitment is number 1 for clubs. You get that wrong, it's doesn't fare well for you. Look at United as well. Obviously Everton in this case. So, they're overpaying for all of these unproved players. And it could have come when Everton had a change of had a change of ownership, and a bit of money was injected into the club. Maybe people saw that as a bit of an advantage to take advantage of them, charge premiums for players. But I mean, I look at that. You look at those price tags on some of those players and compare them to the price tags of players Liverpool have signed since then. Light and day difference. Absolute light and day difference.
I think it's a dirty. I'd say it's a dirty price range there. You can obviously, if you strike them, they pay off. But you're really prone to signing a few duds there. Where Liverpool have gone, obviously, there's a little bit. Well, when I say there's more money, Everton has still spent $600 million, and their net spend is higher than Liverpool's. It's not to say that Everton don't have the money. They have spent it. Yeah, they have spent it, but they've just spent it on lots of players. Liverpool have gone the other way. They've gone the prodigy signings, the cheap ones, say a Harvey Elliott, those kind of championship signings, and then they go and get the all-star, the world-class player, and that's where $10 to $30 million is fraught with danger. You don't know what you're going to get in there, and Everton, just from what you just said, all of those players seem to lie within that 10 to 35, and it's a lucky dip when you start getting into there. And Liverpool have hit on 80% of theirs, and Everton, we've got about 20% hit rate. Oh, 20%. Be lucky to get 20%.
Yeah, it's not great. I mean, I don't know how the hierarchy works at Everton in terms of who decides players to sign. Is it the manager? Is it the owner? It's different everywhere. Obviously, Liverpool's it comes from Jurgen Klopp, and it came from Michael Edwards, the sporting director of the club. They've obviously big hits there. But does it come down to the manager as well? Does the manager have to have some form of responsibility for how many of these players really just haven't missed the mark?
Yeah. Well, I mean, to me, there has to be some sort of communal agreement on these kinds of things. Surely the owner doesn't go bang, bang, bang. Here's these guys. Do something with them. If the club's being run well, there's an equal say between the manager and the owners as to who they're going to buy, what system they're going to play. And to me, if the manager brings in their system, brings in their ideologies and their game plans, you need the players that suit that game plan for it to all work. So it has to fall on the manager at some point, unless your club is being run that poorly that the manager gets no say. But I would imagine Lampard, I mean, he's only been there a little bit, so it'd be the previous managers. Koeman, does that go as far back as Martinez?
Well, that's the thing. They've had a fair chunk of managers since 2016. Martinez, Koeman, Sam Allardyce, Marco Silva, Ancelotti, Benitez, and Lampard now. You can't count
there was
on
that
one
many
hand.
there.
Yeah.
I completely, it just blurred. Ancelotti, Benitez, and Silva blurred into one for me because I just could not even. It's the changeover there has just been unreal.
Well, you've got in that list, you've got a lot of Premier League proven managers, but I'd say there's probably only one world-class manager, and you look at that's obviously Ancelotti. He's about to win the league with Real Madrid. They're in a good position in the Champions League, and not even he could do anything with the players. So it's an interesting spectrum to look at.
It might point towards the ownership. Maybe they aren't giving the managers enough of a say as to who the club signs. So yeah, it's an interesting discussion.
It is. I mean, they might not even be getting a lot of time. Like, what have we got here? We've got Martinez, Koeman, Allardyce, Silva, Ancelotti, Benitez, and Frank. That's 7 managers since 2016.
Yeah, that's nowhere near enough time.
No, nowhere near enough time for a manager to have a couple of windows under their belt and build their team and work with it. And I think Ancelotti left on bad terms. I don't think he was sacked. I think he left. For me, Rafa Benitez was never the match for Everton. And Lampard's been thrown into the deep end, unfortunately. But I mean, even Martinez, Koeman, Sam Allardyce, and Marco Silva, they never did anything with that club at the time that they were there. So, I mean, I think for me, it stems higher than the managers. There's obviously something going wrong up the top.
Yeah. Looking at it that way, you'd have to think there's something. It's rotten from the top. So from the top down, I mean, you've really got to start looking at the top to solve that problem.
Has a top 4 in relegation. This week, Arsenal have decided that they would prefer to finish the week in top 4. Next week, it'll probably be different. They'll decide they want to lose. Maybe Tottenham take it this week. But, alas, it was 2 wins from Arsenal, 2 big wins. Over Chelsea, over Man United, two wins that really puts them in pole position now. Yeah,
it's nice to see someone wants that 4th spot. Someone's willing to go hammer and tongs and really just go after it. But yeah, Arsenal were hugely impressive. So 4-2 against Chelsea, 3-1 against United, all huge wins, and they're statement wins. That's really saying, all right. And it's so frustrating though. I mean, you go and lose to teams like Brighton, and yet you thrash out this kind of stuff. We keep coming back to the same argument in that regard. They all look great on their day, but they all lack the consistency. But I think Arsenal are the ones that will get there in the end. I think I've said it for a while. I think I backed Tottenham at one point, but big wins against big teams, a fellow big teams, they're the ones that really count. I mean, Chelsea have been a little at sea with their defense lately, but yeah, Arsenal really made them pay for a little defensive inconsistency. So they look like they're going to fall over the line first.
And in a group of games where obviously United lost to Liverpool and Tottenham dropped points to Brentford, I mean, that helps. Now, looking at the table now, all of a sudden it looks like 3rd place isn't out of reach for Arsenal. We had Chelsea basically summed up in 3rd for months now. But all of a sudden that gap's 5 points and it's looking like it's not summed up too much.
Yeah. Do Arsenal have a game in hand there? I'm not sure.
Chelsea have a game in hand.
Okay. Yeah, well, I mean, Chelsea haven't exactly been setting the world alight. Let's hope that form continues until the FA Cup final, but who knows? But yeah, look, I think the third spot is there. I'd love for it to come down to. So I think third spot's locked. I'd love for it to come down to maybe the last game of the season, but as well as Arsenal have played in these two games, we all know there's a 1-0 loss to a Southampton around the corner or something like that. It seems inevitable with these guys. They're not going to go and string 6 wins in a row. No. It's just they don't have it in them at the moment. They don't have they don't have the squads, the depth, the strength at the moment. Yeah, I'd like to see Arsenal get up there. I think they, at their best, I think they're definitely a top 4 team and can push maybe a little higher.
At the other end of the spectrum, in relegation, Burnley have escaped the relegation for what feels like an eternity. 2 huge wins over Southampton and Wolves. I mean, and a few weeks ago, we mentioned that in their last upcoming games, if they can sort of snatch a win or a point here and there against a few teams, then that can probably be enough to keep them safe. And they've done exactly that. Well, not only that, they've won the games and they've put themselves in a good position.
Yeah, 2 huge wins there. I mean, coupled with what everyone thought was a regulation loss for Everton, it's really changed. I flipped it on its head now. Everton look like they were safe, and now Burnley come out, claw themselves out, and it's a real battle. This will go down to the wire, I reckon. As like we've said, Everton don't have the best run, aren't picking up points where they can, where they should, albeit against United a couple of weeks ago. But yeah, this one's going to go down to the wire.
On that, I think Leeds have unfortunately found themselves back in the contention as a potential for that last spot. Watford and Norwich, they're done. I think that's just basically a foregone conclusion at this point. So it comes down to Everton, Burnley, and Leeds. Look, the run-in for all 3 teams is not great. It never is when you're down at the bottom there. For me, it's almost down to Leeds and Everton because just looking at the games, I think they have the tougher games. You know, it's...
No, I think I'd agree with you there too. Yeah, there's 3 of the top 4.
Yep.
Right there.
Yeah.
They're not getting points there.
No. I think the best they can hope for is maybe picking up a point against like a Brighton or Brentford or something like that. And that could be enough to keep them safe. Likewise, same with Everton. Probably the only game there that is winnable for them would be Watford away. That's a must win. Yeah. The rest of them, they'll be looking at best for a point, I think.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah, the point for Leeds against Palace there, so that would put them a game. That would put them 3 points above with equal games, if my calculations are correct. I can see Burnley probably scraping if they can continue that form. I think they can probably, I wouldn't say drag themselves out of that mess, but get themselves a bit of breathing space. I mean, you look at the goal difference there. That could play a part as well.
It definitely could, yeah.
It's Leeds, they're not clawing any of that back. And I can't see Everton and Burnley giving up that much to get themselves into that kind of goal difference danger. You got Leeds at -30, Burnley -16, and Everton -21. That's a big difference. And you really hope it doesn't come to that because that's quite nasty. It'd be a horrible way to go down.
Tazza, we had a first game of the Champions League semi-finals played overnight here, Perth time. City and Real Madrid.
It was unreal. That was just, I mean, that's one for the ages, that game. That was 4-3. Could have been more goals too. That's the thing. It was just, I mean, Benzema is skull dragging that team. I think City will get through. I think they've got too much. The fact City could have scored more goals, definitely. That Mahrez, he should have set up Foden there and ended up hitting the post. Foden hits Carvajal on the line. That should never have happened. It should have been, they should have had 5 there. But yeah, Benzema, I mean, as long as Benzema's in this tie, Madrid have always got a chance.
Yeah.
That Panenka penalty is the ballsiest thing I've seen in a long time. He'd missed 3 of his last 4 penalties. He's down in a Champions League semi-final tie. And what am I going to do? I'm just going to Panenka, one of the best goalies in the world. The balls on him. That's to be commended. I couldn't believe that.
That's huge. Did you see Guardiola's reaction on the sideline to that?
I didn't know. No, I'd imagine he would have been pretty animated.
His head in hands. He's just basically couldn't believe his eyes. Really.
Yeah. I don't think anyone in that stadium just only he would try to pull something off like that. That was you'll have to see it.
Oh, you definitely do.
Not if you're a City fan.
No, of course not. I mean, yeah, compared to City's quarterfinal games, I mean, this is light and day. This is football right here. You got just 2 teams giving it all they've got, all out attack, trying to score goals. You know, not often do teams score 3 against City. I mean, City got goals everywhere. They had 4 different goal scorers on the day. But yeah, Benzema, the difference maker for Real Madrid. Without him, who knows where they'd be, honestly. And I mean, we spoke about it last week. I think it might have been last week or maybe the week before. That about Benzema's current status in the Ballon d'Or standings. And I mean, obviously it depends on how they progress any further in the Champions League. Like I said earlier, I believe I think they're only 1 win away from winning the La Liga. So he's got that all but summed up. And that for me, that's got to put him in a top 3 spot, the Ballon d'Or. And I think the only other player that could potentially steal the spot from him would be Mohamed Salah if Liverpool do the quadruple, maybe even a treble.
Yeah. No, I agree there. I think we've seen how much trophies count. We've talked about it before, how it can really skew the opinion of the judges. And do I agree with it? No. I think we all like to see individual brilliance awarded. Case in point, I think everyone wanted Lewandowski to win last year. Yeah, it was a little bit hard done by him not to win, but if you're winning a treble, a quadruple especially, I think he's a no-brainer if they win the quadruple. That would be daylight robbery, seeing him not win that. But the treble, that puts it neck and neck for me, Salah and Benzema. There are other candidates. I mean, Lewandowski's been all right, but Bayern Munich's early exit will really count against him, unfortunately.
To end the podcast today, I've got a different segment. It's a topic that I've stumbled across on the Twitter page FourFourTwo, which for any football fans living under a rock is a big and popular football-based Twitter page. They have a lot of great stuff on there. But it was a post by them, this post that I saw that got the brain moving, and I think it's an interesting topic to bring to the podcast. And it's, if you could add or change one rule in football, what would it be? Now, I'll put the question to the Statchat boys, BT and Josh as well, who are involved. They came up with a couple. We'll start with BT's because it's an interesting one, to say the least. But it's fun nonetheless. BT says a maximum of 3 players are allowed from each team in the box for corners. The exception being 3 defenders and 1 goalkeeper, but only 3 attackers. It's not bad. I'm on the fence. I'm undecided whether it would make that easier to score from corners or easier to defend from corners. But your thoughts, mate?
Yeah, it is really interesting. I mean, instead of packing the box and everyone just clumping together and just trying to throw a head at the ball, I mean, how many times do you see in a normal game players trying to make runs just getting absolutely clattered by defenders? I mean, they can't see it. They've got an eye on their opponent. I think it would make for some pretty nice goals. It'd be more of a set play thing as well. I think it would really bring in the importance. I know a corner is technically a set piece, but I think you get some really intricate plays and decoy runs, and you get some pretty nice goals out of it. Whether you get more goals, I'm struggling to think if you do or not. I'm really not sure. I think you probably don't, because I'm not sure the corner taker hits the target. I mean, with more people in the box, you've got better chance of hitting a target and getting a shot on goal. That said, you've got more people. If you are hitting a target, you've got more people kind of in the way to interrupt your shot. But generally, if you're getting a shot off or you're getting a header out off a corner, you're generally above everyone, and it's not going to get interrupted.
So really, it could just be seen as a less congested version of what we've already got.
Yes, I think so. I don't think it drastically changes anything. I don't think it changes the construction of the plays, but it does. But yeah, I think you almost have a designated. You bring up your plays. You've got two decoys. You've got sort of, it's one person running this way, one person that way, faking, bang, someone comes through. It's much more about timing than just putting it in the box in a good spot. So I think for that reason, the goals don't come. It slows it up.
Okay. I mean, an interesting call from BT nonetheless. Let us know. Let us know in the comments whether you agree or disagree, whether that's a good call, whether it's an absolutely terrible call. Let us know. Tazza, you put one forward as well. I think I'll let you explain it to the viewers, since it did come from you.
Yeah, so I've got a big problem with VAR, and the VAR's tendency to really take away. Football fans always want to see goals, and I think we spend too much time on the nitty gritty of VAR, drawing pencil thin lines or lines to detect pencil thin offside calls. That it's 20 mil offside because of the sleeve, your shirt sleeve, shit like that. It really grinds my gears. It pisses me off. We all want to see goals. You'll win some, you lose some. I mean, one that stands out for me, and I know I'm going to sound biased here because I'm talking about a goal that wasn't awarded, but it was Roberto Firmino. I don't know if you remember. He had a goal chalked off because it was minimally offside. If it takes you that long, my rule change is a time limit imposed on VAR decisions. If it's not conclusive, if it takes you over a certain amount, you take the ruling on the field. And I mean, that's the way we get back to something that we used to have, was just trusting the referee.
Yeah.
Trusting their judgment. They may get it wrong, but that's what VAR's for. And if you can't pick it up clear and obvious.
Yep. Which is the words they love to use.
Yeah. then let the play stand.
Yeah, no, it's a good call. It's a good call from you. I like the decision, and one that I agree with. I think a time limit should certainly be looked at for VAR, because, yeah, it disrupts the flow. The players are waiting around for decisions, and it just takes a month of Sundays at times. And for things as minimal as, like you've mentioned, it just doesn't seem worth it in the long run.
I think whether it's 20 seconds, whether it's 30 seconds, 20, I think is enough. I think to have seen the play and take 10 to 20 seconds to make your decision. We're not drawing lines. We're not doing all that kind of crap. I mean, if you really have to draw a line, fine. But if it's that conclusive that drawing a line or turning an angle is still iffy, then benefit to go with the referee's decision.
Yeah, for sure. The last few that I've got here are from the comments section of that particular tweet from certain people. Couple of interesting ones, a couple of wild calls in there as well, but I thought I'd bring them forward anyway, just because they'll be interesting. The first one I've got here is that if a player goes down injured, as they've put in quotes, air quotes, they should be forced to stay off the pitch for at least 5 minutes before coming back on. This will reduce the amount of players faking injuries to waste time. So you're looking at the sky there. What are you thinking?
I don't mind it.
Based off of what we've seen in the Merseyside Derby.
I'm case in point, 100%. That's the game I'm looking at, and the amount of time wasted and just the pure bullshit that happened in that game. Yeah, I think that is a rule that would really have had a positive effect on that game. And easy to say that being a Liverpool fan and us wanting as many goals scored as possible. But
I mean, we're using Liverpool as examples here, but that's just because of it. They're the games we follow, but it happens in all the other games as well. It
happens every week in probably every week in every game. It happens. How many times do we see a player clutching at their shin or clutching at their foot, ankle, and then 30 seconds later you see them sprint 50 yards? It happens every day, and I'd back that one.
Yeah, especially if they've starting to bring in, they've brought in bookings for simulation and stuff like that. I mean, that for me falls under the simulation category. So if you're getting punished for a simulation in terms of diving and you're getting booked for that, if you're simulating an injury, I think some form of, not obviously direct punishment to the player, but a little bit of a disadvantage is warranted, I think.
I suppose with that, the hardest thing is determining whether you have. I mean, do you award the card in retrospect? Yeah. Can you award a card in retrospect? How much time was taken or wasted? And I mean, I suppose that's what we've got stoppage time and what we've got and injury time for. These things do get taken into account. Maybe not quite as much as we'd like, but it is there for the more major cases of time wasting. It does get added on eventually.
Yeah. My next one I've got here is a bit of a wild one. It would make for a lot more high scoring games. And my next one is you get 2 goals for a goal scored outside of the 18-yard box.
Oh, I mean, I'd love it. I would. Like, for the pure spectacle, for what you'd see in football games, you just get some crazy absolute worldies being scored. It's kind of like it just becomes basketball at that point, doesn't it?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah,
it just becomes, you get the. I'm just trying to think who's. I mean, Fabinho's become a bit of a go-to guy for a goal outside the box. Him and someone else become the Splash Brothers.
Look at like NBA. A Ward-Prowse on the set pieces.
Yeah, perfect. There you go. Yeah. Ward-Prowse and Romeo, I know, has scored a couple, I think, decent bangers, but yeah, I mean, the Southampton Splash Brothers, it has a ring to it, doesn't it?
It does actually. Yeah. I mean, a scenario to think about it. You picture a 90th minute, you're 1-0 down, free kick outside the box, top bins. All of a sudden, you've won the game.
Yeah, that's where it would be amazing. Yeah. I mean, for the football purists, it probably just absolutely cursing that kind of suggestion. But for the pure spectacle of the game, it'd be great. It would.
Like I said, wild out the box there, literally. But interesting nonetheless. Another bit of an interesting one: the player who wins the penalty must take the penalty.
Yes, I love it.
Yeah,
I love it. I reckon that's a great one. Yeah.
The only question mark I have is, for like a handball call and stuff like that, who takes it? Is it like in the AFL when the a free kick is given for holding the ball or whatever? It's sort of player closest to the contact that takes it.
Yeah, I think that's where you solve that problem. Yeah, look, it has merit. More often than not, they are the attackers anyway, so you'd be okay with that. But if it's in a corner and it's a handball, and say Joel Matip for Liverpool was the closest because
he's
one of the centre
back or
something. Centre backs does a handball or something, and you'd be thinking, oh shit, like where's Mo Salah when you need him? But yeah, I like it. It's interesting. I'm probably, having thought about it, I'm a little less hot on it than I was when I first heard it. But interesting, I'll call it. I'm on the fence with it.
I quite like this next one. Time stops when the ball goes out. Again, to reduce the amount of time wasting in games. I mean, we see it a lot, especially home games. Ball goes out for a goal kick. The keeper just takes their time getting the ball. Ball boys holding on to the ball, throw in, same thing, that sort of thing. It'll just eliminate that. And if you're time wasting and you end up playing 85 minutes because you've spent 5 minutes wasting time, then that's on you.
Yeah, no, absolutely. That's the way to get rid of time wasting, is just to stop the clock. Yeah, it's a pretty simple idea.
Keep the clock rolling.
I don't mind it. Whether they do it or not, I don't think so. Some of these suggestions, it's just all of these rules are ingrained so far into the fabric of football, and time wasting, the shithousery that goes on in that kind of side of the game. Each team does it at a certain point. You win some, you lose some. There, it's hard, but it's one that does have merit.
And I mean, for the record, these are just suggestions thrown around by a bunch of people on Twitter. And none of these rules are ever going to happen. Let's be honest. I'm very, very surprised if any of them do. It's just a bit of a banter sesh, and an interesting topic nonetheless. Last one.
No, some of them are good though. Some of them are you could possibly see them happening.
Oh, I mean, going through this particular post was actually posted from, I think it was December of 2021, and a lot of the comments in there was actually remove the extra time. Sorry, not the extra time. Was remove the away goal rule, which of course
has been
scrapped since then. So, I mean, there's an example of one that has happened. I can't see many of these other ones happening, but
definitely not. No.
Nonetheless, my last one. This is my favorite one, and then it's in a few sports already in terms of a fourth official. But the rule is managers get 2 VAR challenges per game. If you challenge correctly, you get to keep the challenge. If it's incorrect, you lose it. A couple of sports that come to mind is obviously tennis in terms of the challenges. Same thing goes with cricket as well. I like it. I mean, not only will we be stopping and looking at every little thing, slowing the game down, as we've mentioned previously, but I think it just more so sort of creates a little bit more excitement. I mean, it's so many times you see managers screaming up and down the touchline for a penalty call, and that's not awarded or something like that. If he truly believes that decision has gone against him, he throws up the challenge and takes it to VAR to look at.
Yeah, another sport that's in is ice hockey as well, and it does work quite good there. We see a lot of good things come out of that. The coach's challenge in ice hockey. The problem I have with this is the VAR, where the people were against VAR because it took up too much time, and the excitement of football was kind of taken away by VAR and the time it takes and everything to process different moments and decisions. That's where I think this one could come a cropper because of the time taken to go back and and review a decision. I like it in the fact that if something is missed, it's blatant. Yeah, it's a perfect opportunity to get that spotted. But I just wonder if it's just another part of the game that we don't need, that will just slow down the game even more.
It'd be a difficult one to enforce, that's for sure. I mean, are they going to have a blue flag like the NFL, wave it in front of the fourth official's face and say, "I want a challenge"? It'll be. I see where you're coming from. Yeah, you don't want to be slowing the game down any more than what it already is.
We already have a lot of pauses.
Yeah,
a lot of too many pauses that people seem to be frustrated with. It takes away from the flow of the game and the nature of the game, where every goal scored, is there a VAR review? Does anyone, people, I mean, obviously there's goals that people know there aren't, there's no controversy about, but the ones that are kind of 50-50, people always look at the referee. Is the flag going up? Is the whistle gone? Is there this and that? It's, are they pointing to VAR? And it takes away from the word escapes me, but just the instant nature of the game, the instant gratification.
For the viewers at home, I'm interested to hear if you've got any of your own. Some of these made for very interesting reading, I must admit. Interested to hear your thoughts on the couple from the Statchat boys and the ones we've brought here today. And if you've got any of your own, let us know. We read all the comments, so if any good ones pop up, we'll mention them in future podcasts. But for now, that wraps it up, mate. An action-packed episode. A real good week of football, and it's only going to get better as we come into the final weeks. So, Tazza, thanks for joining us again, mate. Thanks for listeners for joining us in as well, and we'll see you all next week.